Straight to the desktop. Hello, and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion. Happy Wednesday. Happy day of the week to you. Hello, TBD. Enjoy your meeting, or whatever. Whatever you want to call it. It's so weird. On this screen, nope, I'm lying. It looked like my microphone mixer out had left and right channels and not just mono. Excuse me. But when I came to this scene, my left and right my microphone is showing as mono. Whatever. You guys get to hear me in mono forever. It's been like this for a while, so hopefully it's not anything annoying. Anyway, it's Wednesday, and today, like any other regular stream day, we will be working on the financial management tracker redesign implementation. So you can find our stream project bot. Hello, bot. Are you gonna be here and chat with us? I'd love to have you. Be nice if you were here. Let's try that again. You can see our project on GitHub. It is open source and you can pick through it and stuff. I have an antenna that keeps fading in and out. Where are you, antenna? Go down. It's somewhere around here. Anyway, I'm gonna have antennae. It is an application that we have decided to make on stream. I used to be able to stream all of my work product back in the day when I was working for the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. And I was doing .NET development, which eventually turned into mostly Blazor development. So we all got to learn Blazor on stream together. It was a lot of fun. Then I got a new job at some point in time. So I was working at a company where I couldn't stream the work that I was doing on a daily basis, but I still wanted to stream Blazor. And so we came up with this stream project. We worked on it. We made it. We did some role play as just the developer. They got a full stack developer that got hired to do the whole thing. And then eventually we finished the project, and then the company wanted a better UI design. So we role played the UI designer, and the designer finished the landing page redesign, gave it to us. And now we are the developers again implementing the UI design. What's going on with this Figma? We're going to figure out what's going on with Figma here. So here is our design that we've been given by the designer. We are in Figma in developer mode, so we don't have access to a lot of the tools that we normally would. For example, creating instances of stuff, but what we can do is select items and copy them, see their generated CSS. Ooh, I don't know why I'm out of breath, but I am. But yeah, we're going to continue on with this. I've been looking at the relative sizes of the fonts being used. And so here in the main hero section, we have this main title, this attention grabber with some subtext that's smaller than the title for this section and this section. So all of the sections in general, even the cards for the sections. So these look like they were H1s too. And I don't know if it was intended from the designer. I didn't have a chance to talk with him over the past 2 days. He's been a little busy doing other things like music. But yeah, so what we ended up doing on Monday then was rearranging the content, moving the background image, removing the background image from the original hero. We already had put in the background as well as the top bar content. We finished that up last Wednesday, I believe. So now we were adding the rest of the content. We were here on this first section. No, actually, we were done with all of the content except for the pictures for this last section and the footer. So we're going to do that today. And then once we are done with adding in the content, then we will style these to match these styles. And that's the workflow that I tend to go with. If you have a different workflow, please feel free to share with the rest of the class if you feel like it. You definitely don't need to if you just don't want to or are uncomfortable doing so. Juice. Drink the juice, otherwise known as water. Okay, so the image for down here, I believe at the end of the stream, I had come to the conclusion that I would prefer to have 2 images that I would style how they are laid out, as opposed to one image that is a static combination of these 2. So it could either look like this, with the transparency background, or like the individual items themselves And again, these images are going to be placeholders until we have the actual UI for the data entry screens and the transaction history grid. Yes, I did just do that, and I did realize that I just did that, which was push up my glasses like a nerd. What are you going to do? They were falling off of my face, and I have a greasy nose today. Anyway, so I think I'm just going to grab these as is, if it lets me. Why are you like going into image edit mode? Oh, because it's a single click after that first one. Okay. Copy as ping. And we're going to paste it into Paint. Painto. Did you still end up copying the everything? It did. Maybe I do need to be in here. Whatever. Oh my gosh, whatever. Yes, I did. Okay. Save this. No seeing my sidebar. Not allowed. Okay. You can see my sidebar now. This is... What is this? This is the transaction history grid preview. And hopefully this ends up clipping well for when we get the actual screenshot of the app. That way we can resize it easier. Okay, please tell me that we only have this back image selected. Pretty please. Arigato. Arigato gozaimasu. And then this is going to be our transaction history chart preview. And it doesn't look like much now, but it will eventually. Te prometo. Okay, so back in the code, we need these images in a place that we can access them, but I want to make sure that they're a decent size. I don't want them to be massive. I mean, they're only 36 kilobytes-ish. Ooh, this one's 215 kilobytes. But the resolution on them is pretty big. But still, they're only kilobytes, so do I care at the moment? Especially since they're placeholder images. I don't feel like resizing them. So instead, we're just going to drag and drop it into our www root folder images, which is somewhere around here. YouTube. No. Open. Open. It's not gonna open. Do you seriously have to pin it? Oh no. Oh no, it's actually opening the two images. Jerk. Do I have to pin you in order to bring files over? That's just food. I can't draggy droppy. Is this open in admin mode or something? I don't know how to tell if it's open as admin. Oh, yes, I do. Across the top there would be a banner that says admin, but there isn't. So why can't I draggy droppy files? Dear Sir Madman. Whatever. Okay, they're there. They're there. Don't be so uppity. Okay, so we have two images now that we will be using here in my car. For you, how are we doing the image up here? Individual cards. So I have a separate div under the subtitle. And here it's being called card wrapper, but it's actually image preview wrapper. Preview image wrapper. And image source. We want to put them in an order. Well, I mean, we can adjust what order they appear using CSS, but it's also easier if we just do it using the DOM so that the one that is supposed to be on top appears later in the DOM, because that's how Z-index works. Content. What is this called? Feynman Blazor UI. Images, pasta, I think. Oh, right. And we need some alt text for it. Which I think I only created one alt text for track transactions. Not track transactions. What section are we on? I don't want to clicky. View transaction history. Yeah, I didn't create a view transaction history alt text. I'm great at naming things. View transaction history chart alt text. Okay, so this one should be the same file name, but with the word chart instead. Chart. It's like choot. If you catch my drift. Do you get it? Did that land at all? Anyone? I'm curious. Why can't I hear finite? Oh, I know why I can't. Off. Upboot. Off. Upboot. Off. Upboot. Off. Oh, so there was another OBS update where they improved the look and feel of the UI, which just means they changed things around again. And they know that that is not good user experience. Oh, it's because the tab is muted. You special kid. Necky. So we have our two images, and I said that it needs to be in the opposite order because we want the grid on top. If I save that, we head back to the app because it's still running and we have hot reload. Then we shall see nothing happen. Nothing at all. Gosh, that. And if we refresh the page, you can do it. Nothing. A whole lot of nada. All right, we're rerunning the app then. Probably because the static files that we added didn't get deployed during when .NET Watch deploys the app to bin. Got it. You can't hot reload a file, a static web asset. Why do I keep putting the lid back on? Because it's fun to take the lid off. Voila. Is my pen even... What? It's so weird. So Visual Studio used to launch the app in whatever browser I had last focused. And I have Chrome with multiple profiles, and the browser that it opened in was the Chrome with my normal profile, not my streaming profile. So weird. You're so weird sometimes. Okay, two images, but I think that the folder is not called images. It's the folder name. IMGS. Finan Man, Blazor UI, Finana Man, Finana Banana, and images. Okay, so we have two images. Like I said, they are massive, but we're about to style them, so everything should be hunky-dory, as they say in the entertainment business. What happened to the cards? Oh, they were allowed to stretch to the right because these two images are big. Got it. Okay, so we need our alt text that I forgot about as well. And the other thing that probably kept it from loading correctly was I didn't have the closing tag. Same thing happened last time that we were adding images and I didn't have the alt text created yet. View transaction history grid alt text. Change this first one. Oh, sorry. Shared localizer service. Change this first one to chart. Save. And he has an alt text now. Oops. In a spec. Nope. Hot reload. Dude, do your job. It was a rude edit to add alt text. Hi, President Usher. Just been working with resx files. We found out the designer.cs file doesn't get generated unless you save the resx. The other thing that sometimes gets forgetted is to change the modifier to either internal or public. That took too long to figure out. I'm pretty sure that however long it took you to figure that out, it took me at least twice that amount of time the first time I ran into it. I'm like, how exactly do we get code generation to work? And this access modifier does not make any sense. You wouldn't think to click in this drop down to find the code generation. At least I didn't think that. Internal should be okay. I will have to change that setting if it becomes a problem. So think about it the way you think about any other class. If the only project accessing the static properties from the generated code are the ones that it exists in, that resx file exists in, then it can be internal. If you don't want any other project to be able to access those localization keys, essentially. We found it because when I pulled the changes down, the build failed. If it's only one person working on it, I can see how it would take a long time to find. I was on the team. That makes me feel even worse, being such a dunce. I mean, I guess I was working for the most part individually on that team, but yeah, I was on a team. It's a file that really needs to be in source control. Now the automated builds, when they are invoked, should work. That's one of my favorite words. I got caught on camera. Someone clipped it when I was like, so in the near future, once we're done with this redesign part, we're going to upgrade these projects to .NET 8. And that should be pretty easy to do. And we're gonna be struggling the whole time. President Not Sure also said I'm waiting for you to hit enter. Because apparently I read that last message already, and it didn't look like I read that message. There it is. Maybe by the time .NET 9 comes out, you'll have migrated to .NET 8. You're not wrong. Oh, man. I know. But I mean, we're kind of in different boats because this is a for fun project, and I've been saying the same thing over and over, and I'm not on a time schedule. Like, we could stop everything we're doing right now and migrate to .NET 8. Because, yeah. But it's okay. Even if it was a dig, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was appropriate. But I believe you that it wasn't a dig. Okay. We have the last of the content on that section. So now we just need to add the content to the footer. Footer. So here we go. And then we're going to style everything after we finish that. Oh, look, the check mark for hot reload. Yeah, we're going to do two primary things. Actually, here's the order of the things that we're going to do from here. I think it's going to be 4 total things. We're going to put the content into the footer. Then our next step will be to style all of the content for this size window. We're not going to do the responsive sizing yet. Oh, and I have to put the text in for the alt. Style next, and then we're going to find an actual icon for the app so we don't have a placeholder there. Nothing else is technically a placeholder on this page. The thing in the hero section up here is a preview of the application. And this is what the application looks like now. Same with these two images here. Since we don't actually have a charts view, kind of like, graphs and analysis on your current state of finances, as well as, actually, we can probably do one for the transaction history. Since we have plenty of content, we can take another picture and make that this picture. But for the most part, those are like representations of the actual content that's going to go there, which I guess is still called a placeholder, but reframe, and it's not a placeholder like I went to stock photos and grabbed one and just threw it in there, like this icon, which I still think Google's off for that. Okay, and then after that, we'll .NET 8 upgrade, and then responsive, and then who has time to keep all of this stuff in their head? I don't even have the footer open. Man, I love saying footer. Footer. Shared. Where would I have putted footer? How about if you just look at the main layout, find out what you have for footer. It's in body content, so it's in index. It's in index. Well, there you go. Found it. Ooh. Okay, so let's have the content up so we can see what all we're adding. Make this go away, scoot you over here so we can see. All right, what am I going to do about the Automated Realms logo? Am I just going to keep this entire thing as an image, including the text? That makes sense, doesn't it? Man, you can't, like, I really don't like developer mode in Figma. I'm trying to use it to see what the experience is like to get a design file from a designer that they said was complete and ready for development. But man, I really don't like this process. Copy the image. Head on over to trusty Paint Shop Pro. No, just regular paint. If that triggered anyone, I am so sorry. Unintended. Wow, that didn't even select the entire SVG part of the logo. How, guys? How am I supposed to grab this logo here as a developer? Hello there, Cal. I can read. Cat is fine. Thank you. You are very, very kind. Oh, I don't know what happened to my reading ability. It's usually pretty crap, but there it just kind of fell apart. Just went bleh. But anyway, it's going well. We are making some pretty good progress on this. If you're interested in what we're doing, feel free to take a look at our GitHub page, but I can describe it for you instead, so you don't have to do a ton of reading. We are .NET developers. We, the royal we, are .NET developers, and we're working on a stream project, a community stream project. So if you wanted to, you could also contribute to that repo. Absolutely no pressure to. Just enjoy the content if you feel like it instead. But it is an app that is intended for the user to be able to... Hi, Big Amy! Saw your message about your stream. Do a quick shout out for Big Amy while I interrupt myself so that I don't have to explain. Big Amy is a game developer. His primary game is called Homeward Hound, which is a game about you playing as a dog that gets separated from his people. Yeah, it sounds like you're busy working. But he works in Unity and amazing times. Oh, come on, please, archery. Work, archery. No. Archery bot. Refresh, interact. Are you there? Manual game. Oh, I didn't make it to where I can specify people's name yet. I was going to start a manual game for you, and I was thinking about doing it, but I didn't. Okay. Are you there, archery? Hey, archery. Dark mode engaged. Yes. Okay. Archery is back. Pew. 2, 100. Shoot hard. 2, too high. 1. I'm just gonna miss every time. Got it. Okay, you're up, Big Amy. Okay, so the app project. I'm gonna try to say the short version so I don't completely bore you. If you find this kind of thing boring. Dang, on your first try? Jeez, Big Amy. So this is intended for users to manually track their financial spending and savings habits. And the reason that I am making this as our stream project is because I'm using Microsoft Access and have been since like 2013 or 14. I think the earliest entry in there is 2014. And what I've been doing is entering in all of my receipts by hand. Nice shot. Entering in all of my receipts by hand, and just keeping track of all of my account finances and stuff. So that looks something like how much was your first score? 18. But still, you should get a ton of points for being at the angle that you shot at. Oh, this one. So it kind of looks like this in Microsoft Access, where I have a payments tab, deposits and transfers tab, and you can enter in the date that you made the transaction, where it was going. So if this was a payment, then it's something like buying groceries or, doing a purchase. And so I'm manually entering these in. I don't have plans to do something like scan in a receipt and it'll fill this in for you, or connect to a financial institution and it'll import your data for you. Instead, it's really, really intended to manually, like I have a receipt here. Take this receipt, I read it, I see the amount that I spent on this receipt, I see the items that I spent for, that I actually bought on this receipt, and it makes me a little bit more conscious about what I'm buying and how I'm spending my money. If I have automatic payments, then I can also see when those automatic payments are charged to my whatever account. And then I can be like, do I really need XYZ service anymore? So again, it's all about manually tracking your payments, deposits, and transfers, and whatever accounts you want to track. This is currently what the application looks like. Is it a pure web app? Hyperprog testing. It is. No, actually, I can say no to that. It is an application that uses Blazor for the UI. It looks clean. That's sad because I'll tell you more about it in a second. What we did is we created a Maui application that also uses the same Blazor UI. Therefore, it is also a web app, or also a desktop app, iOS, Android, Tizen, Mac OS. So we have all of the application types available to us, as well as Blazor WebAssembly .NET 7, which we're going to upgrade to .NET 8. So the reason that I said that, though, Kat, is because I didn't love our original design. And so the story goes that back in 1923, I think it was, 2018, 19, I think is when I started streaming. And at that point in time, I was doing .NET development, and I was working for the Rocky Mountain Arsenal here in Denver, Colorado, as an application developer. And I was able to stream my day job. So like 6 hours a day, I was streaming. Prog testing was around at that time. Craziness. So I was streaming my regular day job, doing .NET, and then eventually Blazor. And oh man, we learned Blazor together on the stream. I think my first streams were learning Blazor on one of the applications that I was converting. But after about 3 years of that, I got a new job. 3 to 4 years. I got a new job. And the company that I was working for, I was not able to stream my day job. But I wanted to continue streaming, and I wanted to continue streaming Blazor. Oh man, thank you so much. Okay, Python rules. You're allowed. You didn't have to cheer bits in order to say that, but yes. You're definitely allowed that incorrect opinion. I'm kidding, of course. But anyway, Java pages to MVC first, using .NET Framework, and then MVC to, or .NET Framework to .NET Core, and then .NET Core MVC to Blazor. So we're far into that. I will get back to streaming my work, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I was working for Sagetti, which is a consulting firm. They have a lot of clients, and I wasn't able to divulge who my client was, what the project was, or stream any of the work. So we continued doing streams every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and decided on this Blazor project together, even though it was pretty much me asking everyone and then saying, okay, we're going to do this one. But you can see all of those videos on YouTube from the very beginning if you want to. They're 2-hour videos each, most of which is me talking with chat, maybe about 15 minutes of work per stream. So it's not content rich unless you count chatting away as content. then therefore it's absolutely content rich. I didn't even pay that much attention. Put it on like ×2, ×4 even, and you'll still be able to catch all of the content. I really want to timestamp it, and I started doing it using private GPT to have it pull the transcript from each of the videos on YouTube and then summarize the transcript and then break it up into timestamps so that I could just update it in the comments of each of them. But there are a lot of videos. I mean, you saw that the number of this video is day 242 of this project. That does not include the last 20 community day streams. So on Fridays I have community days, which we don't even work on this project. We just talk, hang out. I invite people into Discord voice channel to use their voice to have conversations about technology. That's in its own playlist on YouTube as well. What else? Oh, so I stopped working at Sagetti and I came back to working directly for the prime contractor at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. And so now I am self-employed working for them, at least for the next 5 months. And then they might hire me W-2, which in America, if you're not from America, a W-2 position is a salaried full-time employee with benefits. But we are going to go back to streaming the actual work product, because I really think that it's beneficial for people to see a developer working on an actual product that gets released with a CI/CD pipeline and everything. I am a solo developer though. When I was working at Sagetti, I wasn't. But back on this project, I'm a solo developer doing all of it. So it is slightly different than a lot of people would encounter in their regular corporate jobs. Yeah. But I have been since what year did I tell you? 1923? But that was when I started. So maybe it was early 1800s as well. But yeah, so the thing that happened with this app though, is we finished, we did some role play. When we started the project, we were role playing a consultant, a self-employed developer that was being hired by a company to create this app based off of their specifications. And we were supposed to do the whole full stack, from UI to backend to the actual implementation. And so we did that. And I had intended from the very beginning to do it as professionally as possible, including unit testing, so test-driven development, doing all of the design first. And I don't know if you can see this, but our design ended up just being a few panels, and they were they were somewhat thought out. Like we could do pneumorphic design, we could do flat design, and we can do this color scheme, which is what we ended up going with. Came up with a couple pages and started implementing, because I got tired of doing design because I'm not a designer. Then while I was working at Sagetti, I needed to do a poop ton of design work, a metric poop ton, and ended up loving Figma. And I was like, Figma is a lot of fun. I still don't have the best eye for design, but man, the tool is really fun to use. So after we finished all of the basic implementation of the application, I was like, all right, let's roleplay some more. The customer that we did this job for loves the black text on white background. Yes. The customer, the client that hired us to do this, is like, thank you so much. This application works great. It does everything that we wanted it to. You did fantastic. We're going to hire a UI designer now. because we're not the biggest fans of your layout of the UI. And you've told us, you've been honest with us that you're not great at UI and UX. So we're going to hire a UI UX designer. Will you be available to implement their design in the future once they're done? So me as developer said, yeah, that sounds great. I'll go take on other projects. I'll do whatever else I do as a self-employed consultant. And oh, that's what's wrong. This bow is supposed to be in front of his face. Anyway, so at that point, now we're role playing as the client and we're interviewing our UI UX designers, and we're like, how much would it cost to do this UI redesign? We love the functionality of the app. You can use it, you can see what it does, but improve the UI. That's all we want. And that just happens to be what my previous job was, or no, actually the second part of this. My job at Sogeti was to take a UI designer's design, Figma designs, and implement them in an existing application. And that was a lot of fun too. So I'm like, this is going to be great. During that time, because I was working for myself, I went solo again, but as a self-employed person. I ended up buying the license for Figma Pro. And so now we have real Figma and we're doing designs in that. So as the UI designer, we had Figma Pro. We created all of these redesigns for the app. And so now this is what the app is going to look like. We only did the landing page so far, but we handed it off to the developer. And so now the client says, thank you, UI designer. We're going to bring in the developer. Are you ready for them to take your designs? Designer's like, yes. And I'll start working on the rest of the designs. But we are only one person, so we can really only role play one of those things at a time. So right now we are back to developer with designers Figma designs, and we're implementing this. And that's the end of the story. So Kat said, I actually started Blazor yesterday, read the first app tutorial and sort of understood what's going on. Okay, this is a great place for you to ask questions about Blazor if you're interested in specific topics. I don't have any tutorials myself that I have put out, but always willing to talk with you about it. I love Blazor. It's not for everyone. You might find out that as you're using it, you would prefer to use a different framework, but give it a shot. Give it a good chance to impress you. I absolutely love working in Blazor. I don't want to do anything else, at least not at the moment, or programming wise. Then spent like 40 minutes trying to figure out why my new component wasn't interacting with the other components. So I just created a new project, took the same steps, and it just worked. That's one of the secret switches in Blazor that you don't really get explained, especially if you're making .NET 8 projects now, but interactive modes. You can create components all you want, but they won't necessarily be interactive depending on what options you selected when you create a new project. So if you didn't select either server pre-rendered, interactive, WebAssembly interactive, or any of those things that are interactive modes, your components are just going to be HTML that gets rendered onto the screen with no functionality, which can get a bit daunting to figure out at first. Someone that I could recommend is a YouTuber by the name of Patrick God. He has great tutorials and information out there. Another one is Kudvinkat. They have fantastic information about how Blazor works, getting started with Blazor, a couple of follow-along projects if you're into that. And again, these are video tutorials. If you don't like video tutorials, skip it. How comfortable are you with HTML and CSS? I think I did the same stuff as before. The base component from the base template worked. Oh, okay, just not the new one. wouldn't take page title. Oh man, I hate it when that happens. So I'd say I'm pretty comfortable with HTML and CSS. Good. Maybe you can help us out. So that's good. That's step number one, because Razor components are just HTML with the possibility of adding C# into them. And so once you create a component, you can treat that component like a custom web element, which I'm sure you found out by now. Where's my code? So for example, we have a top bar and a nav bar component. So our top bar is comprised of two subcomponents, and you can see that this one is pure HTML. So the only thing that is in here is HTML. And once I saved this .razor file, which made it into a component, I used it here in top bar, just like it was in any other HTML element. So do I understand correctly that components are sort of like Lego bricks, which I can just kind of piece together to build a site? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Let's do something fun. Let's go. Well, I mean, it's always fun to me, so it doesn't matter what we do. Where's my main browser on this page? Does it even exist? Does anything exist ever? All right, let's look at a page. Yeah, even this page here. Let's look at this page. It's the svgbackgrounds.com giving me information on how to use background image property in CSS to use an SVG. And this is what I was actually looking for. If we were to take apart this site, and if we were going to design it in Blazor, we would consider what sections are there in this site that could be standalone components. One of them would be this entire top bar. So you think of this top bar as one component. If we wanted to, we could put that on other pages, but we would use a layout so that it persists on whatever page our landing page is on. Another one could be, depending on how often it's used, their basic button component. But this just looks like CSS styling, so that wouldn't be one. I thought if it had other functionality, maybe. One component could be the article here. So they probably have multiple articles. So they have one component that's called an article, and it has parameters that you can specify, like the title, the author, the date published, maybe the URL for the image, or Gravatar, or whatever these things are called. And then the link to their socials. And then the content itself could be a component. So that's almost WordPressy if you think about it too hard. Yeah, it's very, very appropriate, in my opinion, for a lot of data-driven applications. And hello, Disco. So now let's look at the content itself. Content could have a whole bunch of subcomponents that, as you're developing the page, like, let's imagine that this is all static content that you want to be interactable in some way. I don't know what interactions you would have. Let's say all of these here. Here's an idea. Let's see if we can actually do this. This li here. Do you actually have an ID or anything? No. Where are you? You are inside of blog content post ULs. Okay, so let's create a new rule on the fly, because we can. And like I said, it sounds fun. So blog content post UL. And there really is only one element in the UL. I mean, come on. Why would you do this to me? So the li inside of the UL let's style as having a what? Cursor pointer. So now when you hover, why not? Oh, because this is inside. Sorry. So sorry. Okay, so the li itself now has a pointer, and actually we don't want it on the li, we want it on the strong inside of it, which is kind of annoying that you guys are using strong. No, that's a string. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a terrible example. Okay, so only this thingy has the cursor pointer when you mouse over it, and then the rest of the content. So let's add another rule for li not strong. Why do I keep doing that? All right, so strong is an element selector. And all of those are going to be display none. So now the only thing that we have are, oh man, and there's regular content in there. That's so annoying. What I was essentially trying to do is hide everything inside of there until you click on the title. So we're making an accordion using just CSS. It's not structured in a way that's going to be easy to do that since there's content directly inside of the li, but we could do things like change the height and then have a carriage return and all of that fun stuff. I don't know what happened to the carriage return though. But the point is that this now, since that's used in multiple places, this could just be a list of collapsible items, maybe. So we would have a component called a collapse item list where we fed to it a whole bunch of structured objects that are, here's the title for the item, here's the content for the item, and you would write it once where the item is styled to be collapsed, where only the title is showing, and then if the user clicks on it, then it expands to show the rest of the content. And that's one component, one code, one place, and then the usage is you just feed it the content. Absolutely, you can. Well, you can do that with regular HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And Matt says, hello. I moved to Linux recently and I'm loving it. You use Linux? I have used Linux before. I still prefer being in Windows. But yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was just going to add JavaScript as well. So the next step would be to target every whatever we had here for our selector for that. Document.body.query selector all. We would target the strong. And then for each of these, we would add an event listener that on click, its siblings would all get display. You toggle visible and invisible. And actually what I would really do is have a class on the li that surrounds it all and toggle a class on it that says expanded or collapsed. But this is super easy to do. You know what? Since we're talking about that, do you want to just make that component? Would it be interesting to you to see, or do you just want to hang out? I don't want to like take up all of your attention or anything. And that says, I love how I can customize everything. It's amazing. Oh, there is absolutely no agenda that we have. Like, we are working on this redesign, but we don't have a timeline or anything. Matt says, I realize that I only come to your streams and chat loads of random stuff. Oh, again, at the end of the day, you do you, says Kat, and I want to say that to you too. Okay, so why not? Let's create a component, and I'm going to put it in my shared components here. And we're going to call this component a collapsible list. An accordion list. And I'm just putting it in a folder because this will create namespaces for me. One thing that does happen often that you'll notice with Blazor, especially if you're running .NET Watch or you control F5 or you do a full F5 and the application is running, is when you create a component, there are times, like the first component is going to be the accordion list itself. So .razor. When you create the component, you don't get the syntax highlighting you're expecting. Like, let's say that I wanted to put in here a card. Oh, I guess it is. It's cooperating today. But sometimes it won't give you the Roslyn linter stuff. It won't give you syntax highlighting. It won't give you IntelliSense. And that's because it hasn't quite compiled yet. And so sometimes you just need to either close the file and reopen it, rebuild the project, and then you get all of your syntax highlighting and everything works the way that you're expecting it to. Okay, so accordion list, oops, is going to be a list that has expandable items inside of it. And so those expandable items are going to be called accordion list items. And so our accordion list is going to have a whole bunch of child accordion lists. No worries. Oh yeah, also, can I use a component like I would a HTML component? Does it have to be component name? So let's say article, ABC, article. We're about to do that. So I will work on the code for it, even though you're away. And maybe when you come back, you can ask questions about it. Welcome back. So the answer is yes. And we're about to do that. And so there are a bunch of approaches to doing this. One of them is to make this accordion component have a public class, not class, a public method for register child. And it's going to be an accordion item, accordion list item child. I'm watching while working on my projects. It's good vibes. Awesome. I do that on just about everyone's stream during the day. So I am often lurking on Finite, Instafluff, Irish John Games, BitGamey, TBD Gamer in the early mornings. Unfortunately, if anyone streams Mojo after around 3:30 my time, I tend to miss their streams because I'm not online typically. I'm hanging out with my wife because I try to give her as much of my evenings as I can. I used to do nothing but work all day, almost literally. I did my day job, went, cooked dinner, ate dinner with my wife, and then came back downstairs and started working on a second job until bedtime. But I didn't burn out though. That's the thing. I'm sure I could have kept it up for quite a while. It was just, I was feeling like I wasn't giving my wife the attention she deserves. And even though we were hanging out together, she's pretty much a book on tape for me. It's great. It is fantastic. So we read books together, essentially. And she was doing that most of the time while I was still coding and writing code. But once in a while, it would have been nice to just not have anything else going on that's taking my attention and give her all of my attention. And so I'm doing that a lot more lately. It's fun. The other thing that we've been doing lately is playing a game called Tainted Grail. I am going to talk this game up. I'm going to shout from the rooftops that everyone should play it if you have the availability. Okay, Kat. I'm talking about Tainted Grail suddenly. Tainted Grail, not the Steam game, although I think that's fun. It's not as good as the desktop game, tabletop game with physical components and stuff. We have it set up on a table over there, and we're playing a campaign called the Kings of Ruin, which is completely different, not completely different, which is pretty different than the core box game, The Fall of Avalon. But this game is so much fun and stressful. So stressful. You know the song Tainted Love, but that's it. Tainted Love. Do you know the Elvis Presley version or the other one? Yeah, it reminds me I wanted to play D&D at some point. This is great if you don't have other people to play with, because you can play this solo. It's awesome. If people are scary. That's why it's only my wife and me. So you can play this solo, completely solo, and you can play it with up to 3 other people. You can duo characters. So I play as 2 characters. She plays as 1 character. And you experience this story. It's co-op. It is very co-op. Story-driven. You go from location to location, lighting these men here and trying not to die. It's a deck builder for the most part, but there is so much story and replayability. So if you play the story one way the first time through, you can play it a different way the second time through. And the landscape changes, the events change, the ending changes. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, I love their dials for this. But yeah, if you get the chance to play it, play it. Favorite type of game, ones I don't have to socialize. Speaking of socializing, check out TBD Gamer's stream. Here's another shout out for a fantastic developer. Since you are back, he usually has a stand up at the time that I start my stream, but he streams .NET development as well. Great information, fantastic to hang out on his stream. He streams at 7 a.m. Eastern time, which is UTC -4. So it might be a bit early for people on the West Coast, but I'm up. I'm Mountain Time. I'm up and watching his stream. It's great stuff. He works on a .NET project called Liquid Sky. He's going to be investing more time in that. He was doing a lot of learning Godot because he's really interested in making his dream game, but he doesn't know game development as strongly as he knows app development. So he's since gotten that renewed vigor for working on his project. He was taking some time to just refresh. 7 a.m. UTC -4. It's like 2 in the morning for you. Are you in the Pacific, Asian Pacific areas? Yes, thank you so much for that, TBD. That's so nice of you. Like Guam. You are in Europe. That's the other way. So that should be 2 p.m. for you, I think. So Napalm asked Dukabot to give us a dad joke. I used to work for an original company, or I used to work for an origami. See, this is why I don't need to be reading jokes. I used to work for an origami company, but they folded. It's currently 1:35. Whoa, wait. What time is it for you right now? because I'm UTC -6. Yes, I ruined the joke. So, let's see, 6 hours ago, 6.5 hours ago is when he would have started streaming. You aren't stupid, no. Time is a construct and really hard to keep track of when you want to live in reality and you have 1 foot out the door. Not out the door, 1 foot in both dimensions. That's just wrong. Don't say out the door. Okay, we talked about Tainted Grail. We're gonna make this component because it sounds like a lot of fun. I don't even know if I can do it with the time we have, but we're gonna try. So we're gonna have some accordion list children, and we're gonna be able to render those children. So something an accordion list must have is a render method. So let's go to the accordion list. Let's give it a, and don't worry, I'm not keeping the code block here. It's just more convenient to keep here. Public render fragment. Render. Or actually, I'm most likely going to keep this here now that I think about it. But for now, we're just going to do this. So this is how you denote that you're putting HTML in C# in a .razor file. So this is a C# property for this class, but I wanted to use HTML. And this works because I'm making it a render fragment. This is the same as if I put /text up here to render it as HTML. That's kind of more an advanced topic, but yeah, it's gonna be fun to figure out. So I'm just gonna run with this. Maybe I'll have way too many advanced topics on here, but this isn't a tutorial. It's just trying to get this thing to look cool, right? So we need a way to keep track of these children's. And so to do that, we're going to have each of our children have another property that's a GUID called ID. It's going to be a get only property, and it's going to get created as soon as you instantiate a new one, and it's going to stay as that GUID. So now we have a way to identify what children already exist. And so we have now a list of accordion list items. You can make it IEnumerable. You can do whatever you want. I have not seen the new GUID coming in .NET 9. Please tell me about it. I'm missing a lot of chat now that I'm doing this. TBD is saying, I learned a lesson about SendGrid today and why I won't be using them anymore. If you don't use your account, they deactivate it, but you can't get the account reactivated using the same email. That's weird. That's very weird. I'm using SendGrid for my work product. In fact, I showed my key on stream, or part of my key on stream, when I was trying to show off Thindle's no docs, because I didn't actually have no docs installed, or the no docs extension installed in that browser session. But no docs, since this is my personal project and I can do this without fear, no docs is a way for you, if you're presenting or showing off your code to people, you can hide the values in JSON, in XML, in whatever, or just those two file types currently. He's still not quite doing YAML or other file types yet, but it'll hide the values for your strings inside of your JSON and XML files. And then you could always show them. You can show the comments. Yeah, and then if it is a malformed file, it just defaults to hide everything. And here, the reason that everything is masked out is because it's all commented out. Okay, so children. Oh yeah, we're using .NET 7. Dang it, we're using .NET 7. I was going to use the new collection initializer that TBD started learning about on yesterday's stream. Yesterday's? You didn't stream yesterday. You did stream yesterday. It was Monday that you skipped. got it. I remember. There are libraries that do it already. Oh, to Matt. Okay, so it's basically the same, but the beginning of the GUID is a timestamp. So it's going to do a better, it's going to be better for indexing the DB. That is so smart. That is so smart. It's almost Friday. Is this something that you want to talk about? So once again, Fridays on this channel are community days where you are invited into our Discord to join a voice channel. You can talk using your voice if you feel like it. We only discuss whatever topics you bring up, or I bring up if there are no other topics. The other thing that I'm trying to do is remake the bot for the stream. It's a good bot. I love my bot. Automated Realms, I love you. Aw, thanks. Appreciate that, love. So it's using a local LLM that's running on a machine over there. And it's also the thing that you can send certain commands to that don't work, like coin flip, where instead of giving me the actual result, it gives me the placeholder for the result. You know, I wonder if it's just that I didn't make that into an interpolated string. No, that's a placeholder string. There's also this archery game that Automated Realms really loves to be snarky at TBD for some reason, and only TBD, because it's like really supportive and helpful to everyone else. But once TBD does it, it's like, get good. I finished my first Python BDD integration tests. That was a slog. BDD. I don't remember what the B stands for. I do BSDD. Oh, there it goes. It's starting off with well done, TBD gamer. It looks like you tried your best in the archery game, despite the target's 1 meter size and 52.1 meter distance. Unfortunately, your arrow missed the target completely by around 13 meters. What the? It's a little disappointing, but we always have another chance to improve our skills. Your current score is 0. It's important to remember that practice makes perfect. Good luck in your next try. Behavior-driven development. Gosh, I remember. Snarky much, bot? Failure-driven development. All right, so how are we going to get these children into this component? And how are we even going to render the component? Well, we know that it's going to be a list. That's number 1. So it's going to render as a UL. And if there are no children, we have a choice here. Like, so if children... Oh my gosh. Learning how to type for the first time. Can anyone send me any software that, you know, is good for learning how to type? Children.count. And so children.count supposedly is better than doing children.any when you have the count property available. But lately, the IntelliSense has been suggesting that I use .count even if it's like an IEnumerable where you only have the count method available, because .any is still more resource hungry than .count apparently. Anyway, so we use .count for a regular list that is materialized and has a .count property is equal to 0. And this is one thing that TBD might cringe at, but I used to almost always put less than or equal to 0. And there is absolutely no way that the value for a .count property of a list can be less than 0. Don't ask. Don't ask. Oh, yeah. Okay, good question. So when do you do just at expression and when do you do at code expression? All right, so at code, think of this as the code behind for your page. Think of this as a JavaScript file or a script tag at the bottom of your page. So pretty much anything you put inside of here will be accessible by the content, which is everything outside of that at code block. Once we're done with the, oops, I'm deleting the wrong things. Once we're done with setting this stuff up, we're going to move this code behind or this code block into a code behind file to keep our UI and our logic separate. Although again, TBD is going to be like, you know what? You're putting logic in your UI by having this if statement, which is true. Instead, I should have something down here in my code block that says this is what you're going to render because I've done all of the evaluations down here. But this is how Blazor is supposed to be used. So I'm not angry at doing this. And again, I'm not trying to call you out in a negative way at all, TBD. Those are very valid points and things to consider when you are deciding what to put inside of your UI content. No. Again, I love opinionated developers. I really, really genuinely do, because you have an opinion about a thing and you are able to say, this is why. This is why. So at code is the logic, while at expression is stuff that makes HTML exist. Essentially, yeah. So like, let's say that I wanted to keep count of how many children there are and display it in the UI, but I don't want to always do children.count for whatever reason. Or I want some HTML that says how many children. So right now we know this part, which is just going to be an li, no items or something. And again, you don't have to display this by default. Most people would probably not want you to display this by default. If you're making a component library, they would want some kind of parameter that you can specify whether to show the no items content or not, or even specify their own no items content. But otherwise, so here's another point. I was going to get to the content real quick. Okay, so let's do the count real quick. And so this is going to be a private int, maybe long. I don't remember if .count is long or int. I'm pretty sure it's int. Item count. And I'm making it item count like this because I'm making it a property. And let's do one more. Let's make it an entire phrase that gets printed out. So it's going to be children count item children count is not equal to 1, then s, otherwise null. So we're going to print out this many items without the parentheses s. And we want it to display as the first item when there are items. And just to name it something better, I'm calling it item count display. Am I though? Thank you. All right. Is that just for clarity, like class names start with a capital letter, or can you actually not do HTML encode? So I'm not doing HTML encode here. We will do it here when we're making the items, the accordion items. But the way that you would do HTML to make something generate HTML depends on whether you're working in the code behind .razor.cs file or in the .razor file directly. So down here, this is all C#, unless and until you are outputting something that will be a render fragment. Then you can use HTML. But if I took this to the code behind, that is only a .cs file, so this would break if I put HTML here and moved it to the code behind. But again, you're going to see that in the item itself. But consider that every single time in the content part, so ignore the @ code, in the content part, whenever you put an @ symbol, you're switching from C# to HTML or HTML to C#, depending on what the last thing was. So the last thing here, the very first thing was HTML. So in order to go to C#, so we can write a conditional statement on this property, we need to put an @ symbol. And so now we have @if, but inside of here, we are now C#. So if I wanted to, I could declare variables here. Taco equals taco. Yes, please. And this is HTML. And then now I can also use this. Or sorry, this is C#, and now I can use it in HTML. Here, no @ symbol, because it used to be that you had to use an @ symbol every time to switch back to HTML. But it knows HTML markup. The linter is able to say, all right, we're switching context from C# back to HTML. And so now this content in here is HTML, but we want to use a variable, which is C#. So now we're using C#. And then we switch back to HTML. Yeah. And this thing needs to go away. I hate it when it gets I'm not really an error. So anyway, point is, the @ symbol is only needed when you, I said that wrong. The @ symbol is only needed when you are switching from HTML to C# only. That's confusing. After being told for years, the computer cannot just assume that's what you wanted to do. And now it assumes I am done with C#. Yeah, this is going to be something to get used to if you're going to go this route. Of course, you don't have to. I encourage you to. So here, this was HTML, but we closed off the HTML tag. So we're back in C#. So for my for statement, I don't need an @ symbol because it's already C#. And right now, this is one of the things that a lot of people will complain about. Here, it's valid code, provided I actually did close all of my tags correctly, but the linter is saying I have an error here. But if I were to go down to, oh, it's because of this. Dang it. I thought it was going to show off the false positive. I'm still learning how to program, by the way, apparently. It's not a false positive. It was actually a real error where I was using for instead of for each, and I had a quotation mark down here. Dang it. But that would be one of the points where you just kind of close the editor and reopen it. Yeah, so true, TBD. Kat says, I'm going to have to learn to use for each property. When I use it, it's pretty much always copied from Stack Overflow. Again, if you can copy paste and you understand what you're pasting in as you're pasting it in, there is nothing wrong with using examples. That does not make you a worse developer. In fact, it makes you a resourceful developer, in my opinion. I would ask, I don't require it, but I would ask that you try to understand what it is that you are pasting in. And if you do run into issues and you happen to have Copilot, then say, hey, Copilot, can you describe this? Or you can paste it into Gemini, or you can paste it into somewhere else and have it explain it to you so that you do understand it. Cool. Okay, so we're going to display each of these children. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have the children render their content by using their render method. It's a method? Their render property. It's a property, dang it. Copilot telling me it's a method. Piece of taco. And that's it. That's all we're going to do for this for now. Actually, no, there is one more thing. Whoops. We will add the title. Oh yeah, we're giving it structure. That's what it is. We're going to have a title. It's just going to be a div class title because we're going to make it easy, simple. We're going to have a title and a content. So let's go make this title. Title, we're going to want to be able to specify when we use this component, when we add an accordion item. So we have this special term, parameter. We're going to make it required just because I feel like doing that. And so what editor required does as this attribute on this parameter, it's going to tell whoever is using this component in the editor that they must specify this property. And then I'm going to put allow null because otherwise it's going to complain. And I'll show you what it does if I don't put allow null first. Okay, so here's my title parameter. So whenever I use an accordion list item and I don't have the title specified, it's going to tell me you must specify title. So then I go title equals some string, and now it's happy with me. But here, it's like title, you're declaring as a non-nullable string, and you have nullability turned on because it's a lot easier to catch null reference exceptions if you have it turned on. So try to declare it as nullable. But I'm like, I don't want it to be nullable. I want it to be guaranteed to have a value when it's used. And I know that it will because I'm saying editor required. And if it doesn't, that's on the developer who's using the component. They're going to get an exception. So I want it to not give me this message here. And the easiest way is to do allow null attribute. And it goes away. Okay, and now to render, we're going to parameter public render fragment child content. So child content, if there is only one render fragment parameter, then the way that you use this is what you were asking about. I don't remember render fragments having a nullability issue. Maybe I do. So if we have an accordion item now, and we wanted to use it in a way where you provide HTML content inside, sometime, whatever, I meant to write title, I wrote sometime. We want to provide HTML inside of it, we use a render fragment, and if we just want HTML to be directly inside of it, this is the content for this sometime, question mark. And I don't know, we make it a P for whatever reason. The only way that we can access it in code is if it's a render fragment. Child content, since there's only one render fragment, all of this HTML is going to be turned into a render fragment using the Blazor component engine, rendering engine. Ooh, that was hard to remember the name of. But we can't, maybe. I don't think we can access child content directly. You can. Okay. So you can access child content directly. What I was going to say is what we might have needed to do, like let's say this was structured and it had a header, body, and footer. So instead of just child content, we had header content and body content. Oops. And footer content. And not all of them are required now. Only body content, let's say. Actually, allow null. So this one is, you don't have to provide a footer, but you do have to provide title content. So now we no longer use this title property parameter. Instead, we specify the different sections. So here's our header content. Oops. And here's our body content. And so now this is the thing that you were asking about earlier, and it's still green because I don't actually have header content. So let's make it a H3, my header. Oh, and you are not required, like I said. This is what you were asking about earlier, where can I put HTML inside of a component? Can it be used like regular HTML? The answer is yes-ish. And yes, your mouse is a red dot. I have heat map, the heat map extension for the stream, but I didn't do anything with it yet, but I will in the future. Oh man, I missed TBD's statement, which is sometimes knowing what you don't know and moving on to the next task is enough. Learning more about that thing later when you need to understand it more deeply. Sometimes. Agreed. Like memory profiling and garbage collecting, oh gosh. A lot of this stuff will just come to you because you'll run into issues where like, my page is not loading as fast as it should be. Why? And you'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't use IEnumerable in this case. Instead, materialize to a list first. That way we are iterating through the list instead of needing to reevaluate the query every single time. That kind of stuff. So render fragments are what's between the opening tag and closing tag of components. Exactly. And if there is only one render fragment, then it is the content without a designator telling you which portion you are trying to render the content for. Whew. All right, where are we? We're going to do this. Let's render out this item. So to render out a list item, we're going to have the list item itself be an LI because we know it's only ever going to be used inside of an accordion list. And I'll show you how we can guarantee that in a second. So an accordion list item. Oh, yeah. And now we don't have access to the content itself. Instead, what we're going to do is render the item. And that'll render li head body optional footer. So li is our list item. We're going to have the li take the ID list item concatenated with, and here's another usage of the @ symbol where I want to use the the C# in HTML. And so this is going to be the ID toString. I think I have to toString it. I don't know if the default for GUIDs is just printing out the GUID without curly braces. I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? It's complaining because it is C#, needs a semicolon at the end. So li, here is our opening HTML, and now everything I put inside of here is going to be treated as if I'm writing it up here. So the actual output for this is going to be I don't know, a div class header. And then we're going to output the header content. So again, it's not null. We don't need to do null checks or anything. It's called header content. Header. Header. Oh my gosh. Did I mention I'm still learning how to code? TBD said I never have stopped. I always learn something new. Every day. Body content. We're outputting body content. You're starting to grasp it. Yes. So this was really, really hard for me to figure out from the very beginning. I was starting to use Blazor as soon, well, a little bit before Blazor Server was released, which was the first version in .NET Core 3. .NET Core 3? Yeah, I was using Preview in .NET Core 2 too. Okay, so footer content is nullable. So we need to do a null check for it. I use is not because I'm comparing an object, and is for object comparison as opposed to reference comparison. So if footer is not null, reference or value comparison, I guess, then we're going to render div class footer and render out the content. I don't know why you're being so weird. Okay, so this is it for our item. This is all we're going to do. How do we tell the parent that we want this item to be rendered? Because the parent only knows how to register children, right? If not children doc any ID equals child.id. We don't want to add the same item to the list multiple times because multiple render passes has the potential to add the same child multiple times. So we only want to do it once. I don't think we need to do state is changed. That will trigger a re-render, and every single time you do a re-render, it may slow your code down, especially if you're adding like 5,000 children, and after you add every single child, it re-renders. We don't want that. So how does the child know, or how does the parent know who its children are if no one is calling register child? Well, we tell the child who its parent is. And the easiest way to do that is to pass the reference to the parent to its children. And that is done multiple ways. You can use a state class that is dependency injected. The way that I'm going to do it here is by using a cascading parameter. So cascading parameters, you can tell them apart. You can know that they are cascading parameters if there is a cascading value where the value equals this. And then whatever you put inside is going to have access to this cascading value. And since we are rendering the accordion item child or children, oh no, I've just completely forgotten whether this works or not. I'm starting to think that this is not going to work. We're going to find out though. So we have a cascading parameter, the same way that we created these other parameters. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So the parameter here, if they are not render fragments and they are just regular old properties, like ints, date, time, strings, your user-defined objects, whatever, you can have access to those as attributes. So think of a HTML attribute. Those are these parameters on a component. So now we have access to index. And then we can specify a value for index. But we don't have anything else on here, like if we made one up called name. Name is not a real thing. Taco. And that would actually give you a runtime error that says, I don't know what this random parameter is that you specified. I can't render. Unless that was actually a compile time error. That was kind of cool. Oh no, compile time error is because of this. So our cascading parameter is how we're going to receive the parent. So private accordion list parent. And here's the thing though, we don't want this to be null. And we're getting this stupid green squiggly saying that it's gonna be null. We're saying, no, it's not. We must have it. Therefore, parent will never be null. So on initialize, there are things called lifecycle methods for components. The ones to remember are, it's easier if this was in code behind, are onInitialize, which has a counterpart called onInitialized async, protected override async task on initialized async. I believe if you have the async one, the synchronous one will not fire unless you manually call it. But yeah, one or the other. And then you have, for the second one, on after render would be the next one that I talk about. Copilot. On after render, which also has an async version as well. And I'll tell you where each of them fire after we talk about them. The next one is on parameter set. And the one that I would have talked about before that is public override set parameters async. And I think there is only an async version of this. Yeah, there's only an async version of set parameters, which is kind of dangerous to use if you don't tell it to process the parameters setting this set parameters here. This is the first thing that you most likely would want to do when you are trying to use this method. But then on parameter set async. So lifecycle, what a lifecycle method means is that it will happen every single time at a given point for each of these components. So the very first one, on initialized, happens as soon as it's like, I'm going to create this component, a new accordion list item. As soon as that is initialized, then this logic gets run. And you can see that Copilot already did the parent register child for me. Not nullable. Mother. So this will happen every single time. It's like if you did a new and you had a constructor in your new object. Again, you can do asynchronous stuff inside of it too. Hi, Big Gamey. Again. Hi, Big Gamey again. On after render will fire every single time the content for this component needs to re-render. And it has a flag for, has it already rendered once before, or is this the first time we're rendering? That way, if you need to do something on the first time it renders only, then you can just hide that inside of a if first render, which is common. You'll find plenty of cases for when you want to do stuff only the first time this component finishes rendering. And then every single time it renders after that. One thing that I would hazard against is to not use state has changed outside of a conditional statement, or even outside of if first render. Just don't use state has changed inside of on after render. Every single time you call state has changed, that tells the component, I need to be re-rendered. And you can imagine what that does. I've re-rendered, finished re-rendering, I start running this logic, state has changed, I need to be re-rendered. All right, I re-render, I finish rendering, state is on after render, call state, anyway, you get the point. Ow. So I got stuck on this quite a bit. I'm like, why is my UI lagging? Why is it stuck? Why does it keep freezing on me? And now we know. Nice. I can't even see it. Okay, we're not going to use the on after render. We are definitely going to use the initialized. Set parameters. So again, I told you about these things up here called parameters. I just did a quick brush stroke over it and said, this is a way that you can pass data into the component. There are things called bindings that you would want to learn about so that when you have a parameter here, if its value changes, the thing that's using this component that's providing the value, that one changes too. We can get into that later if you're interested in it. Not later today, of course, because we won't have time. There's going to be so much. There's so much. Yeah, so I love two-way bindings. Here's just a quick example of a two-way binding. Where's close? Oh, dialogue. Oh no, my dialogues aren't in here. Oh no. Draggable container. Drag start, on drag end. Okay, I don't have any easy to go to. Oh, modal. Yes. Yes. Okay, so there is this show parameter that I pass in from modals that if you set it to a Boolean variable, you can bind it so that when show changes inside of this child component, the Boolean variable that the parent is providing will also change. And the way to set that up is on screen here. You have the parameter itself, and then you have an event callback of the same type of that parameter with the parameter name. And this is actually by name convention is how it picks up that this is a two-way binded variable. So the parameter name followed by the word changed. Then when you're changing the value of this property inside of this component, then you invoke this show changed event callback. And then the parent that's using it will receive the message show changed, update the value of your Boolean variable. And that looks like this: at bind dash parameter that you want to update your own private, the one from this field. Oh, this was a terrible example because this one just forwards the event up to its parent too. But it changes the value of this show. And when that value changes, it also tells its parent, show changed, do stuff, update yours. Two-way is not the devil. It's super easy. It just takes a minute. So it takes the last shot right after, then the best shot. If you're talking about in the description, I don't know. I feed it all of your values and then it generates the text based off of that. Okay, anyway, that was a quick broad overview of two-way binding. Where are we? We're going to finish this up because I'm going to finish up the stream in about 6 minutes. So we're almost there though. We don't want this placeholder stuff. So when this component is created, we want it to register itself with its parent. Its parent is passed down to it, so it knows its parent because its parent contains it. Here, oh, this is how. My bad. I was like, how do we get the parent to know that it has children? And we do it by using a parameter. Okay. Okay. And so this here will render all of those accordion items, but it will not render the content from those accordion items just yet. Actually, I'm going to move this outside. And the reason it won't output the accordion items content is because the only time that they render HTML is when their render property is called, is referenced, is used, is whatever. Are we going to make the child content required? No, we're not. And then another thing that we could do to indicate there's loading is we could initialize children to be a nullable list instead. And if children is null, then display loading. If children.count is 0, then that means that loading has finished and there are no items. Otherwise, display the list of items. Oops, no idea what I just did, but it disappeared. And that should be everything. We can now register the children, so we should be able to use this. Once Kat gets back, I'll show, since we're done with this, I'll show splitting this out into the code behind. And let's just start setting up an example on the main index page. So let's say that these cards here, that's going to be hard. Let's say that we have another section here called valness. Yes, one line is back to doing Blazor. I don't know what valness means, but it's what we're doing. The list of valness. Yes. This is some country far to the northeast that if you travel to it, you will find the vowels. And the vowels are all reference types. So here we're going to have a div with our content. Oh, I guess content goes on section. Why does content go on section? That doesn't make sense. It's just going to be the body. I'm making this up as I go. And then we're going to use the accordion item here, or accordion list here. And because we set it up this way, our accordion list is telling us that, or not telling us, we can have children in here. So we're going to add a whole bunch of accordion items. Accordion list item 1. Now this one is going to complain at us because it doesn't have header content or body content. And it wants us to use our localized content, which we haven't created. And this is just a random example, so we're not going to actually add localized content. I was about to use quotation marks like it was C#. Header for val 1. So creative. Look at me go. And then this is the content for val 1. Then we will have another accordion item. And so this here shows off the joys of making the component once, putting in a simplified version of whatever it is that you want to use inside of that component, and then seeing it get rendered in the way that you originally designed. So at this point, again, I've started doing this the way that I normally would, which is let's put all the content there, let's create all the functionality first, and then let's talk about styling it. And give me one more. Thank you. No, give me the whole flipping thing, you piece of mother trucking flashter. What's that word? Sorry, it's a Valish word. You'd have to go there first. I understand. Go big gamey! Kick his butt. Oh, I still have some methods that need to be cleaned up because I didn't talk about on parameter set. Oh, I did. I talked about set parameters async, but I didn't talk about on parameter set. So I'll run through that real quick. I'm talking faster now. It's not close to the target. I heard him hit the target. I'm taking it personally at this point. Gomenasai. Accordion. Okay, so for the recording for posterity, set parameters again is called as soon or before the value is being entered into whatever parameter it is. And so the way that the parameters actually get added is by calling the base parameters set parameters async, which is generally why you want to do it first, because what ends up happening is this gets called every single time any one of these parameters is getting set. And so if you do it for parent first, which will happen, and then you immediately do it for header content, and that's happening while you're still doing the set parameters for the original one, header content may finish before parent and then they'll be out of sync. And so when you're updating your parameters list, the values of your parameters for one or the other, it's going to give you an error that says the parameters were out of sync. So that's why it's recommended that you always do base set parameters first, and then whatever operations you're going to do based on what the values are being set to. More recommended, at least from me, is to use on parameter set, which gets fired after the values of the parameters are set. And that way you can know that whatever you do with the values of the parameters are going to be whatever the value is for that given parameter after it has already been set. So that's on parameter set and set parameters async. Hello, Max, Violet Dragon, dude. Anyway, let's just see this list. We are running out of time. Compile. Compile. Load here. This is my active browser. Don't you dare load anywhere else. I will threaten you. All right, cool. All right, no items in the list of boundness. Wow, maybe we do have to. That would be really annoying. After every registered child, do we have to re-render? Yes, we do. Wait, what happened? What happened, Big Gamey? Copy this. Let's open up this browser. Anyway, so we have the basis of the component. Now all that we have to do is do the functionality for showing and hiding the content based off of whether the thing is expanded or not, which we can get a property on that component that says children for a given child it's expanded or it's not expanded. And yeah, we can't do that today though because I'm running out of time. So scrap Blazor, it's clearly inferior. Wait, we want to hear this. Actually, we don't want to hear this because this is just about the, whatever that's called. Dude, get off my screen. Recommended that you always do base set parameters first and then whatever operations you're going to I can't even hear them. Based on what the values are being set to. Recommended that you always do base set parameters first and then whatever operations you're going to do based on what the values are being set to. Wait, recommended. What's up with the timer? What do you mean timer? Parameters first, and then whatever operations you're going to do based on what the values are being set to. Oh, just from. Oh my gosh, why did I read that as saying something to do with timer? This says Big Gamey from downtown. It's showing an impressive shot by Big. Good grief. Anyway, so we have our accordion almost. We just need a little bit more functionality to make it a real accordion and some styling, and we will show the full power of Blazor being amazing. I remember playing NBA 97 on the PlayStation and just remember from downtown. I can't even remember dude's name. Like everyone knew his name because of the NBA Jam games. Nope. Vic Vitel? Did I just remember a name? Dick Vitel. I was close. I was really close. Everyone knew this guy. Welcome back again, Max. No, you didn't forget to say. You said hi. I mean, you said yo the first time. Oh, this is what you're saying. You finished your 11th class today. At least they rhyme. True. We're gonna go to this scene. It's been a really fun day. I hope you guys didn't mind the sidebar content. I really, really, really enjoyed doing that. That was fun. And Kat, if you do happen to be here, if you're back already, we will be back again on Friday. Like I said, Fridays on this channel are community days. And so we will have healthy conversations about whatever topics you want to bring up. I need to go here. Cool. Today we are going to raid a game developer who also sometimes works on his amazing, wonderful bot. Welcome back. Okay, good you're here. You get to hear my outro. We will pick up more whenever you happen to be around. No requirement for you to be around at any specific time. You don't have to be here for next stream, whatever. Whenever you happen to be around and feel like watching or seeing the rest of this component get put together, just let me know. Remind me that we were doing it, and we will finish creating the rest of the component. Sure. Sounds good to me. I'll be back again on Friday, as it says, every Monday. Why does it say each weekday? Do I have the wrong... Have I been using the wrong ending text this whole time? I stream on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I will be back again on Friday. Yeah, see you tomorrow. How long has that said that? I need to go back to the VODs. Yeah. I'll be back on Friday. Community Day. That's what I'm trying to type. Community Day. Feel free to check out the project that we work on stream on GitHub. Feel free to watch any of the previous videos. I upload them all to YouTube. I upload my VODs to YouTube. And feel free to join our Discord if you want to. If you're already a part of way too many Discords, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But we're going to head on over to another fantastic streamer. He's a bit energetic sometimes, but I love hanging out on his streams. His name is Setolix, or Setolix. He is a game developer, but also has this really cool bot, lots of stream interactivity. Speaking of stream interactivity, as I've said before, remember to check out BitGamey. He has a lot of really fun things on his stream. And he's just an amazing guy to be around. Check out TBD Gamer. Lots of really good information, very knowledgeable. Even saltier bot than... Okay, but yeah, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be lurking on people's channels, but I'm going to be mostly focused on getting my day job stuff done. Ciao for now.